People, deluded, I'm back again. I hope you're all doing well and safe, whoever you are, wherever you are. I'd like to first and foremost apologize. I love youth talent. I like to keep a track of players that have left Arsenal, players that obviously are at Arsenal, and obviously young players that are playing their trade away from the club as they look to develop as professional footballers, either to have a future here, either to lay the building blocks for their futures elsewhere. I want everybody to have a great loan spell and everything else because I want Arsenal's academy to be the best in the world. I want it to be self-serving. I want players that don't make it at Arsenal, whether they're sourced from abroad or, you know, scouted locally and whatnot regionally and across England. I want them all to develop and play at the highest level. It puts our academy and our name in the right sort of thing. Now, in relation to our loans, in terms of the players I've kept track of this season, this game week or the last couple of weeks, I'm going to speak about them. I can't cover all. It's been an interesting one in terms of loans. Matt Smith was having a great loan spell at Swindon. It's been cut and he's gone to Charlton. I don't think he's played yet at the time of making this vid. Obviously, Bowler and Trey Coyle haven't departed for new loan spells. Medley's learned a lot already. You've gone from playing academy football to obviously being on the bench for Kilmarnock and then obviously playing in Scotland. Obviously, he was playing in League One as well. These things will develop you as a footballer. It's quite crazy the amount of experiences you can get. So allow me to share my screen quickly, people, and just go through the notes of the last few weeks and the players I've been keeping close eye on people. Now, you've obviously got Saliba. Now, we know Saliba's name right now. If you type his name on Google, I've done 2 videos about it. We've spoken about it. His name's in the papers for all the wrong reasons. But in relation to football, people, again, you have to forgive the spelling errors, the obvious spelling errors, because I'm speeding 9 times out of 10, I'm speed doing these notes. I really should check over them and freshen them up. But, since I last spoke about him with you guys, he's played in 3 games. He's played against his former team in St. Etienne. He's played in a sort of derby against Monaco. And he's had a convincing performance or been part of a convincing team performance against Angers. Now, if we start from bottom to top, people, in relation to Saliba, not Maitland-Niles, again, against Angers, you can see the statistics that were floating around on Twitter. Played 90 minutes, 82 touches, 58 passes, 90 odd percent pass accuracy. He made 8 clearances. He made 1 tackle. I don't know if that's true because I'd love to know what the statistics define as a tackle because I saw him tackle quite a few people. Won 4 aerial duels and he kept a clean sheet. Now, obviously, the thing I'm happy for is a clean sheet. Him and Todibo are going strength to strength, the 2 young French centre-halves. They're genuinely a young team. Sadly, Jeffrey Adley's had a season-ending injury and follows on with Nico Bielik, our former players who were making inroads having an injury. I think it's the second sort of ligament injury that Jeffrey Adley's had. I could be wrong on the specifics, but I think it's the same. Nice is a young team and we need Saliba to be a leader, especially when you're doing all the talking off the field, especially when you go to the club and you talk about how you want to be a leader. I think he showed that against Angers. Angers had some chances to score. I did think Nice could have made further daylight than the 3-0 scoreline suggests, people, but it was a good game. Obviously, he hit the crossbar from a bullet sort of header. It could have been his first goal, to my knowledge, in the French league or definitely for Nice. He didn't have much to do, in my opinion, but dealt well with what he did. He forced a couple good passes. I did think he made a couple of good passes, but I did think he forced a couple. But again, the centre-halves are doing well, and he did his thing in the Angers game. Now, against Monaco, as you lot can see, that was the first time he partnered Todibo. He did all right, a couple of touches, positioning. He could read situations a bit better. He has to know balance and things. Was caught flat-footed at times. The game, you can't not speak about the 2 fantastic strikes from Ben Yedder, really and truly. He had a long-range strike and then you had a sort of instinctive finish. I think he made some smart passing. I think he had a decent game. I don't think he's at fault for any of the goals. I do think against St. Etienne, I wouldn't directly blame him, but collectively, again, you look at Nice, they concede the same sort of goals where they switch off, especially with that when there's threats in their area and the second ball and reacting and making those clearances. I think it was more of the same case against his former club, St. Etienne, people. Obviously, he played as the middle centre-half as part of a back 3. I did feel the game was quite lacked. As you can see, I only really caught the second half. I watched the highlights of the first, but I only caught the second half because that's when it came on TV. I did think it was a boring game. It did lack energy. There weren't really much to really speak on. The goal they conceded, like I said, they didn't clear their lines properly. One lad is playing everyone on side. Saliba slyly missed a header. It was a poor collective team goal to concede. So, you know, I do think watching these young players, nobody is gonna, in my opinion, anyways, and I'm sure you, as someone that's following players, you're not gonna see anybody return a dramatically better player. Like, they're not gonna leave bog standard and return as Lionel Messi. What I want to see from Saliba is you kind of, I don't think he's going to cut out all the mistakes. I don't think he's going to suddenly become our best centre-half when he arrives next season. What we just need is more experience, polishing these mistakes out, getting some confidence, getting some consistency in the legs, because he's more or less playing catch-up now. For the last 18 months, he's wasted a year. He's had all sorts of external factors, you know, in France and obviously COVID, and now he's not played. So this is what we need to see from him. I don't think I've learned too much so far about Saliba, and that the same issues are still there where he can improve. The same plus points are still there. But yeah, man, across these last 3 games, that's it in relation to William Saliba, people. If we go down to Ainsley Maitland-Niles, you know, he made his first start for West Bromwich Albion against our rivals Spurs. You know, he's got a great opportunity. First and foremost, the opportunity to train and play on a regular basis. He was training with Arsenal, but you didn't get the gauge that no matter, even though at times he was poor, like against Palace, you did get the theme that no matter how, or the feeling that no matter how hard Maitland-Niles plays or does, you know, he's not going to get a consistent run in the team, whether that's in midfield or at right back, primarily at right back. He's got an opportunity now. You've got an opportunity to play in midfield. You've got an opportunity to train and play on a regular basis. You've got an opportunity to put in performances. And with that, you could potentially play for England in the Euros. I don't think you're going, especially if you want to be a midfielder. You have more of a chance as a fullback, which areas are overstocked. But that's what the man wants, innit? And I do think you have to allow him, you know, he's not fully fit. I think you have to, one thing I give Maitland-Niles, he could have stayed at Arsenal and been comfortable. He's not on that. He wanted to go and play. He wanted to back himself and play in his favorite position. He's found a club where there's the chance to do that. And you have to remember, he hasn't played too much. He is naturally going to be off the pace. It was a so-so game, a 5 out of 10 against West Brom for me, people, because again, on one hand, you could say, well, this is why you don't play in midfield. I do think the game passed him by. Did think he did some wasteful things. I just think it passed him by ultimately. But on the same token of that, I did think Maitland-Niles showed a couple of flashes of brilliance with some of his passing, with some of his tracking. He did put a couple of tackles in, but I think it's welcome to the harsh reality of football now. It's like nobody cares that you're Arsenal's Ainsley Maitland-Niles. You're a 23-year-old that wants to be a professional footballer, that wants to play for England, that wants to play in the Premier League, that wants to play on a regular basis. Go out and show it. For me, the best thing Maitland can do is people sit there and go, wow, we know, why didn't he get an opportunity at right back? Why couldn't he got a chance in midfield? Why didn't somebody play him in midfield? Because if we look at it, Wenger used you on occasion in midfield, Emre and Arteta exclusively at fullback. I do think you could have got a chance in midfield. That's the same way I think Smith Rowe could have before, but there has to be a reason as to why there's been multiple managers and none of them have seen fit to play you in midfield. Go out there and prove them wrong. I did think he was casual in several incidences and he's going to need to improve. So that's that in relation to Ainsley Maitland-Niles. For Guendouzi, obviously, against Bayern Munich, he came on in the 55th minute. It was the first time in 13 games he actually didn't start. It was a crazy game because, you know, my guy Luca Netz is playing. It's a player that I've got a lot of time for, the left back. A lot of development to do, but the young 17-year-old is quite good. I do like Cunha. I can never spell his name right, but if I remember correctly, you know, although they only lost 1-0 to Bayern Munich, Lewandowski missed a penalty. Luka Bacchio had a chance to draw level. And there was an incident where, you know, there was at least there was one chance. I think Guendouzi had a shot where he should have played somebody in. But in the 66th minute, there was another chance, people, where he could have found Cunha. And then, and he didn't. So that was 2 incidences of where his decision-making could have been better. 88th minute, though, he played one lovely pass to Cunha. And again, 2 different spellings. I can't spell Donny's name. It was a lovely pass. I'm going to be real with you. Guendouzi should have had an assist. Cunha has to score that. He tried to attempt to chip and he misses the target. Cunha is a player I got a lot of time for, and someone, you know, again, I have no say in Arsenal, but he's someone I like the look of, and the more he develops, it is what it is. You did also see against Bayern Munich, Kimmich versus Guendouzi. Guendouzi didn't throw his toys out the pram, but he was not happy with a tackle Kimmich laid on him and stuff like that. So really, you know, none of this, he can't affect the game in it. There was nothing he could do. They had a terrible game against Frankfurt. It might have even been 4-1, people. That I might have written that at the time. He played in a more advanced midfield role, and it was a crazy game, people. You know, you're seeing 4 goals in the second half. You know, they went behind in the very quickly with Pieltek. He had a decent game, but it wasn't anything where I'm saying, oh, Guendouzi, how's he not here, sort of thing. It's more, I'm not learning too much. I think the only young players that could really surprise me are the young players. For the Salibas, for the Maitland-Nileses, for the Guendouzis, for the Joes, I don't think you're going to improve dramatically in a matter of months, but I want to see you iron out some of the play and come back a more confident player because, I definitely think Saliba and Guendouzi could have a future. I do think Maitland-Niles' days here are numbered, but I do think centre midfield and right back, he's got a role. For Saliba, we need minutes. He needs minutes and he needs confidence, and obviously try to iron out game time. For Guendouzi, the same. Probably him putting himself in the shop window. Same goes for Maitland-Niles. For Joe, we know, skipping ahead, sorry, Zach Medley, but skipping ahead to Joe Willock quickly, dream debut, Minamino also scored, but he scored the opener. He scored on his first start. Joe Willock displayed in that game what we know with Joe. He's got an engine. He's all action. He's committed. He puts himself around. When the high intensity sort of games, he puts himself around. You could see how poor the conditions were when Newcastle played Southampton, people and stuff like that. And Joe puts himself around. So again, I don't think we're learning more about Joe. My thing for Joe is, he needs to play consistently to obviously play to a minimum sort of level. Can you play 6, 7 out of 10 minimum, not 5s and then 7s and then 2s? Can you get some consistency? I'd say for me with Joe, I like his energy, I like his dynamism, I like his box to box, especially in the modern game. But if I look at it on a harsh thing, every centre midfielder should have that. Surely, people, as a midfielder, you should be able to run a lot. You should be dynamic. You should have an engine. And I think with Joe, he's got an engine. When Arsenal have to be the reactive side where we're conceding possession, he's good. But when we need a bit of class on the ball, playing against a low block, I think that's where Joe lets himself down. I think defensively off the ball, he needs to learn a lot. He allows a lot of midfield runners. He's going to learn that at Newcastle if he keeps playing. I do think on the ball, he's got technical level, but he doesn't have that quality, to make that pass. And these are the things I want to learn, because as you could see here, courtesy of the Twitter account Orbino, Joe Willock should have had a couple of assists as well. It was a 10 out, it was a 9 out of 10 performance from Joe. There's nothing more you could have asked for Joe Willock. Best debut you could hope for. Obviously, he scored. He created 2 chances for teammates. I'd say more than that, because he had at least 2 for Wilson. He made a game high of 5 tackles and also made 2 interceptions. So again, we know that's for Joe, and Joe could have a role in the squad doing that. But we do need to see a bit more quality in that regards, people. Because I think if I scroll down, he only attempted 11 passes in the whole game. So again, on the ball is where Joe needs to show the most improvement. I'm not saying he needs to turn into Xavi, but he needs to show some quality in that regards. But so far, so good from the 21-year-old. In relation to Mavropanos, people, he got 90 minutes against Bayern Leverkusen. Excuse my poor spelling. Stuttgart were poor as a whole team. Damari Gray scored his first goal for them against Mainz. I don't know if I actually spoke about it, but against Mainz he had a very good game. He was part of a poor collective team effort, in my opinion, against Bayern Leverkusen. So it is what it is. And to be fair, Stuttgart as a whole need to improve with their marking from dead piece scenarios. And all of those sort of things, people. Mark McGuinness obviously kept a clean sheet in the 2-0 win against Blackpool. Daniel Ballard was on the bench. To my knowledge, anyone that I've missed out, whether that's, Ballard, Smith, who's the Clark, and all of these players, I'll get on the rebound for the next loan report. But from what I've come across, all I could do is see a clean sheet for Mark McGuinness based on the highlights and extended footage and people I speak to. I didn't watch the game, but they said, once again, he's showing the case of what I've been speaking about in the loan reports, in that at times he does overcommit to tackles and he needs to find a balance, when to press, when to sit off, when not to try win the header. All of these naiveties are the same things you'd expect from him, and they're in there. Of course, he's good on the ball. They said he played a key part, or if you watch it, he played a key part in the goal. I think he actually wins the ball back in the build up to the first goal, and he was unlucky not to score from a header. And McGuinness is doing quite well. I think Ballard, Smith, McGuinness, Mavropanos of late, they're all having good loan spells, man. Hopefully, Joe Willock and the rest of them can have something to say. But yeah, man, Obviously, we got a bunch of players out on loan. You know, if you just look at Arsenal's midfielders alone, people, with Guendouzi, Joe Willock, Maitland-Niles, Torreira. You know, Torreira, I purposely don't speak about the experienced players in my loan reports, the Torreiras and Kolasinac, but there's decisions to make. And hopefully, you know, Joe, Maitland can show that they've got a role here. Hopefully, Guendouzi, bygones can be bygones, and things like that. I circled back and I almost forgot people. Zach Medley as well, as you can see here. Tough intro into Scottish football. I don't think, watching the highlights, you can't blame him for any of the goals. I think they're his teammates, but his team are incredibly poor off the ball. Their marking is poor. Their team shape was poor. The quality on the ball was poor. He's been thrown in the thick of it. And I think that's a good lesson for him to learn, people. He's on the bench against Celtic. He would have learned some lessons against Celtic. You know, and you look at Glenn Kamara, you know, Scotland's a good, obviously Glenn Kamara was at a couple of other clubs, but he's at Dundee and Rangers. And I think he's up there for some passing statistics with Rangers, and he's linked with a Premier League move. So there's a lot a young man can learn in Scotland. You can learn a lot anywhere. Sometimes you just need a platform. And, you know, Medley, I think he's going to learn a lot this season because he's had ups and downs already at Gillingham, in the side, out the side, made mistakes, been made to pay for it. And he's, you know, it's a tough introduction. Like you can see here, people, from what I saw, you know, I can't blame Medley. You know, he's part of a collective poor team performance, but collectively they were at 6s and 7s. Based on the highlights, that some of them goals against St Mirren were for Kilmarnock. He went on loan to Kilmarnock, if you don't know. Some of those goals in the highlights against St Mirren were elementary school. I wouldn't even see that in Hackney Marshes, let alone a professional football. So, you know, I like Medley because, again, he's scared. He's not afraid to be out of his comfort zone. He's left Arsenal where, you know, you're playing under 23s, you're training with the first team. He's gone to Gillingham. I think he's round them side. So, again, probably helps in terms of adaptation. He's picked up himself as a young 20-odd-year-old and gone to Scotland to develop now. So I like that he wants to be out of his comfort zone. I like that he wants to develop. And at the end of the day, I think there's lessons to be learned. So yeah, hopefully there's more success for our young players and our players out on loan. But for now, that's all I've got to speak on. Please make sure you hit the like button. Please make sure you subscribe. I apologize for the late sort of one around this. And, you know, from now to the end of the season, when I can and in whatever capacity, I will speak in some capacity about the players I'm seeing on loan and how I think they're shaping up. So, yeah, man, hopefully there's more positive stuff to speak about. And hopefully some of these players can return, not just the ones I've spoken about, but players I haven't, and surprise us and become Arsenal footballers. And if not, make some profit for this club. If I'm honest, you know, there's especially the centre halves at our club that are on loan, you know, with the exception of Saliba, who might be getting sold based on just things you read. We've got to put people in the shop window. If they can't become first team players, can we move them on and things like that? So it is what it is in that regards, firmly, people. That's all I've got to say. Apologies for being here longer than I needed to be. But on that note, DG, I'm out. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Check out the descriptions where you'll find information for all the socials to follow me on. I'm out.